So, Oren, how many weeks of labor a year does it require a father or a dad in order to sustain a family of 4 in 2025?
So my best estimate, and actually we looked at this kind of before you got the biggest COVID inflation, because that obviously threw things off in a lot of ways. But if you take the kind of core basics of middle class security, which I would define as health insurance, housing, sort of typical average housing, transportation, operating a car, being able to pay for tuition at a public university in your state, and affording the food that your family needs. And if you ask how many weeks of work for the typical male worker does that take, in modern America now, it's well above 52. It's well above 60, in fact, which is a problem. There obviously only being 52 weeks in a year, and it didn't used to be that way. If you go back and look at the 1980s, the sort of comparable package of stuff that you needed for middle class security, you could buy with about 40 weeks of work.
And in order for us to be able to restore that balance, what is required from an economic policy perspective beyond tariffs? What else would you be recommending for this administration to embrace?
Well, I think for one thing, it's really important to focus on what I would call the supply side. So, tariffs obviously create an incentive to come in and build more here in the United States. We also have to do a lot more to then help people do that. And some of that is things like better tax policy. We need, to do deregulation. We also need a lot of workforce training. I think education is one of the most important places that we can be doing a lot better. Right now, we have a model that sort of just says, look, we're going to try to get you into college. And we hope that works for you, but that's pretty much all we do. And the reality is that does not work for the vast majority of people. Either they don't go to college at all, or they don't complete college, or even if they do, a large share can't find a job that's the kind of job that is typically for people with a college degree. And so I think what we need is to invest much more heavily in other pathways that actually connect people to jobs, that help cover the cost of their training, that put them into community college programs that actually give them real skills. And obviously that's going to be very good for them. That's going to ensure that those younger workers are getting pretty quickly to a place where they feel like they can start a family. And it's going to be incredibly important for the employers, for these companies that we're asking, please come build here. I'm not sure we can do that and then just say, but all we have for you to hire are college dropouts and English majors. I think it will speed along this transition if we have the right programs, so that we make sure we're preparing workers to be productive in this kind of economy.
Oren, in closing here, the trade, let's just say, situation has put a lot of our audience in a little bit place of anxiety. Any message to them of everyday retail investors that are quite worried about the effects of the application of tariffs?
Well, if you're talking about investments in the stock market, I think it's important to say that there is certainly a sort of adjustment going on here. I mean, everybody knows that globalization was very good for corporate profits. If the goal was to maximize corporate profits, then telling companies they could, just shut down their American operations, they could stop dealing with American workers, and they could just set up shop in China. There's no question that drove a lot of profit, and that drove a lot of appreciation in stock prices. And so if we're turning that around, if we're reversing that, we should expect that to have an effect on corporations. But just as it had a really negative effect on workers, I would expect this to have a much more positive effect on workers. And the reality is that if you look at the long term, it's not that whatever is good for corporations is good for America. It's that whatever is good for America is going to be good for corporations as well. And if we can get our house in order and actually have a more productive economy, a growing economy, and a healthier nation and a healthier society, I think in the long run, that's good. That's going to be plenty good for investors as well. But we really do have to focus on getting our ducks in order first.
Oren, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Thank you.